chat. Hello and welcome back to Politically Speaking on TOC. I am PJ Thumb and we are here today with Jeannette Chong-Aruldoss,
Yes.
a former political candidate, to talk about the election and to talk about how the everything has gone so far and what we think of the outcome is going to be. So today is May 1st, Labor Day. Happy International Workers' Day to all the workers out there. And tomorrow, of course, is cooling off day. So this is likely going to be the last broadcast we have until the watch party on polling day. So before we get into this chat with Jeannette, I want to encourage all of you as usual to like, subscribe, and of course leave comments, leave questions. We'll put your questions to Jeannette. We'll have a chat about everything. But really, this is one last chance for all of us to think about this very rushed and packed election period, to reflect on what's happened, to really think about what we've learned, and hopefully so that we can have a good informed vote on Saturday. Okay, so welcome to the show, Jeannette. Welcome back.
Hi, yes.
So you ran in 2011, you lost narrowly to Lim Biao Chuan in Mountbatten. You ran again in 2015, and then you retired from politics?
That's right, yeah.
But, what's your reflection on the election so far?
Well, I think that we had a COVID elections, which is GE2020, and so no political rallies, and it was a very different kind of vibe. And finally now in 2025, we get, speeches again. We can go and attend live, people talking and have all that, feeling of coming together and listening to people's opinions and thoughts. So I think that's a very, a release after so many years of muted silence. Yeah. So that's quite exciting, and is, I think, for many youngsters, I think that they have not really know what political rallies are, because they missed out, on this. And
it's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years, can you imagine that? Yeah. So I think that for young people, this is something different, right? Yeah. So I'm just so sad that, the next time we're going to have political rallies will be another 5 more years. So it's like, and this every day during the campaign period, we're all tuning in, as I'm tuning in, to listen to all the broadcasts and all that. So it has been quite exciting,
Yeah, it's great, this election. People, I feel, are a lot more politically sophisticated. People are a lot more plugged in. People have learned from the previous elections. And in some ways, this is everything you want Singapore to be, because you have citizens who are actively thinking and participating. And I can't help but feel like Singapore would be healthier if we got to do this a lot more often.
Yeah. And I think that I'm very heartened to see that a lot of the new candidates are young people, articulate, well-spoken, and they give a very good impression of themselves, generally speaking. And I think that this energizes, the slate of candidates that we are seeing is very energetic, and I'm also quite impressed. And many of them are multilingual. Not only are they articulate, but they also articulate in more than just one language. So I think that's a different. It's a different style, I would say, from what I'm used to. Yeah.
I think for me, what I've been most impressed by is just, well, it's sort of good and bad, because I feel like the sheer polish that you get from a lot of the younger new candidates, especially Workers' Party, PSP, they've got very talented people, but they also are so well trained, especially in the age of social media, that they know not to say anything controversial, nothing interesting. So in some ways, there's been no gaffes, there's been gaffes from the PAP, right, definitely, but opposition has been very few from the big three parties, right? And of course, the SDP had one huge gaffe, which we can talk about later. But otherwise, especially the younger candidates, very polished, very boring though. Sometimes I watch them and I'm like, okay, I know exactly what you're going to say, I know how you're going to say it, but I do long for a bit more color. But of course, color is dangerous also, right? You never know. You say something edgy and you're going to get in trouble for it, because this is politics. And all around the world, I think, especially in the age of social media, where everyone knows what it's like to say something and have it broadcast around the world in instant, people have become very careful and very rehearsed. So I think that's good and bad. Yeah.
Well, I mean, people have complained in the past that politicians are in it for their ego, and they would just want to draw attention to themselves and all that. So I think the fact that we are seeing candidates who are actually more kind of focused on the content of their speeches and on the issues that affect Singaporeans, and not trying to draw attention to themselves personally by talking about things that are maybe controversial, and just, I mean, this I think to me is also a good thing. I mean, because otherwise, people will think that, you're just in it for yourself or what,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but then the question is also, you have people of such, it feels like in order to be a candidate with Workers' Party or PSP, you have to be very highly credentialed, you have to be very polished, you have to speak English well. And let's face it, is that really representative? Or for the PAP as well, right? All elite civil servants, the cabinet ministers, all civil servants, generals. But the younger people they're bringing in also all very polished, highly educated. When you think about Singapore in the 50s and 60s, the old guard, we had trade unionists, we had a barber, we had a seamstress, we had people who were very much representative of the ground, and who spoke in a very local vernacular that people could immediately identify with. So is there a disconnect then between your PAP, PSP, Workers' Party and SDP candidates as well, right, with the people on the ground, because they clearly are all from a certain socio-economic, educational, and therefore had all the sort of interesting edges rubbed off, sanded off, right? Are they truly representative of Singapore?
I don't know. I mean, at the risk of oversimplifying the electorate, I think that, there will be the die-hard conservative people who would be pro-ruling party no matter what.
Yeah.
And then there will also be those, people who are, no matter what, they're going to vote not the ruling party, example, right? Of course, but I think that, really there's so-called the middle ground, and I think that we are in the first past the post system. Yeah. So it is a competition, like, you need to get past the post. So it's not like, well, I don't know whether we have room for too many types of people, but I think that we need to also, there's this middle ground I think that we need to reach out to. And I think that, maybe the candidates are thinking that, there's this group of people who are undecided, and the undecided, they are looking for certain things, and maybe that's why the candidates are, talking to this group of people. Well, at the risk of oversimplifying.
Well, when you were running, what was that like? Because you ran in Mountbatten, you had to go and walk the ground and talk to people from all walks of life in different languages. But you're a lawyer, right? You, you're educated. Was it LSE?
Yeah.
Did you find it difficult, right, as a professional, English educated, highly educated person, to really connect to people on the ground?
Okay, so PJ, I entered politics in 2011, which I think the environment is probably quite different from what we are now, because during my time, right, you had things like walkovers, and in fact, I think the reason why I was interested in politics because we only had like 2 MPs in Parliament at the time, just 2.
2 opposition,
Sorry, 2 opposition MPs. So that was like everybody was so afraid, that if you enter politics, you're going to be sued, you're going to bankrupt or what. So this thing, like nobody even dared to be, stepping forward, because unless you really are so sure that you got no skeletons in your closet or whatever. But so I think when I entered politics, right, there was this there was this fear that you better not enter politics at all. So I think that there's quite a different set of circumstances. So I think that now with the opposition has actually captured a GRC and then a second GRC, right? Yeah. So and I think we have now a term called leader of the opposition, which is like never thought that we'll make that day, And this thing about NCMPs, you only have NCMPs if they're less than 12, right? I think that now we don't know. I mean, whether that magic number 12 even, we might not even have. Anyway, so the thing is that right now, we're building on the electoral history since 2011. Okay, there are people who are, don't feel the situation is not the same as when I first started.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, it's only been 14 years, but actually,
a lot has happened.
The first election I got to vote in was 2011. I was 31. Because even though there had been elections before that, I always had walkovers. Yeah.
Exactly. And people didn't even had a chance to vote. Yeah. And so this thing about voting was quite new to them.
Yeah, it's amazing actually how far we've come.
Yes.
Just because 2011, of course, was that watershed, the Workers' Party win, Aljunied, and I think that changed everything. Wow. Okay, but okay.
Yes.
What is the biggest negative then? We've talked about a lot of positives. For you, this election, what's the biggest negative?
Okay. Actually, I also I was shocked when there was a walkover in Marine Parade. I was a bit shocked, and I didn't. I was thinking, oh no, what kind of thing. But I think that I live in Siglap, which used to be Marine Parade and now has become East Coast. And when I look at the electoral map, it's such a oddly shaped electoral map. I think it's just crazy, with extensions here and there that looks absolutely ridiculous, right? And I think that that is so strange, and why some places are left intact, and some places have little changes, and why some places have got a lot of changes. And we don't really understand. And
we do is to maximize the PAP's outcomes. It's blatant gerrymandering. We all know that. So many people have said it. No one's gotten POFMUD, right? No one's gotten sued. I think the PAP themselves aren't even pretending. It's blatant. It's just 1/3 of voters ended up in a different constituency. And the excuse was so dumb. It's like, population increase. Population increase everywhere. Singapore's overcrowded. And you look at how they drew the lines, it's clearly they took, places which voted strongly for PAP and added them and moved them around so that the PAP had the best chance of winning as many constituencies as possible. And then right in the center of the country, all the safe, your Ang Mo Kio, okay, Jalan Kayu carved out. Your Holland Bukit Timah, right? Your Tanjung Pagar, Marsiling, you see, nothing changed because strong anchor popular ministers there. Right, it's so blatant.
So this is the thing, right?
Yeah,
and again, they threw out the electoral boundaries, which is all changed drastically, and then next thing you know, they called for nominations and everything, and it's so very sudden, right, for everybody. So I think that's rush. Also when you talk about what's negative, so that's it.
But I understand you were at Jurong Pioneer because as a lawyer, as a Commissioner of Oaths, you were there for working with the SDP.
I was helping them.
So you were there when suddenly Tan See Leng shows up.
Yeah. So I think that everybody was surprised to see him walking in, and I did not make the connection at the time that if he's here, who's at Marine Parade? It didn't occur to me at all. And I have friends who live in Marine Parade, and just yesterday, my friend who lives in Marine Parade received the manifesto of Marine Parade Braddell Heights GRC, the PAP manifesto, right? And it has got Tan See Leng on the front cover, and the manifesto is like a foot long kind of thing with, and he also received big size pamphlet about vote, PAP, and with Tan See Leng's image, very prominently displayed. So I would say that Tan See Leng was also like announced, and it was made very clear that he would helm the Marine Parade Braddell Heights GRC. And it was interesting to me because when I saw him at Jurong and all that, and then later on they told me it was walkover. So I was like so shocked, and I went to go and like read up like what happened, everything, right? And then I found out that immediately after his nomination for Choa Chu Kang GRC was confirmed, he gave an interview immediately, and he said that, and I quote his words, right? I was at Kong Wah, and that he actually rushed over to the nomination center of CCK, and I know that he entered it like after 11, but probably before 11:30. So he rushed over, and he even said that in the 30 minutes that he took to get to the center, he said I had a chance to catch up on what his predecessor had done for the last 14 years, because DPN Gan Kim Yong had been a member of parliament for CCK for 14 years. So he's really a kind of like very, very familiar with CCK. And then, now we have Tan See Leng coming in to replace, Gan Kim Yong. And Gan Kim Yong, was then, as I found out, shifted over to, or like people say, parachuted over to Pongo, and I said, so who's contesting in Pongo? Oh, it's the WP, so it's like, what's going on here, right? And so I think it's clear to me that the decision was quite sudden. And by all the interviews that the PAP candidates were saying, it was quite sudden. And it was a reaction to the WP's decision not to give Marine Parade a miss and to contest where they are contesting.
It's so first of all, I think we should make clear, everyone, right, in case you're not aware, Marine Parade is not, as of now, is not the same as Marine Parade as of before the boundary redrawal, right? A lot of, as you're saying, Siglap is now East Coast. And so the boundaries had changed so significantly that the ground that the Workers' Party was walking, their statement said, right, they felt that was no longer feasible for them because the ground they were walking was no longer enough of the constituency that they could run. Okay, which is fair enough. The issue is gerrymandering, and the Workers' Party is, it's an opposition party. Everyone's struggling, lack of resources. But as we said on the nomination day live stream, how does this serve the interests of the voters, of the people, the citizens, when your elected MP who's been working with you for 14 years suddenly gets sent elsewhere, right? And so this whole last minute moving around of people is more about, you can clearly see the PAP care more about beating the Workers' Party than about serving the interests of the people, and that is tragic.
Yes, exactly. Tan See Leng has been, working for basically the Marine Parade, right? And suddenly now he's in another place, and so it is like, what I'm trying to say is just because WP is not contesting Marine Parade Braddell Heights, you can still also remain, okay, so it's a walkover. Yeah. I can still serve, right? Where I've been working with the residents and getting to know them and everything. Why is it that this fact of WP giving Marine Parade GRC a miss means that now you can go elsewhere? I mean, what is the logic there?
And why move Tan See Leng to Choa Chu Kang and Gan Kim Yong to Punggol? Why not just keep Gan Kim Yong in Choa Chu Kang and move Tan See Leng to Punggol?
Yeah.
Like what is
the...
Is Gan Kim Yong so beloved? Until a few days ago, I really didn't know much about Gan Kim Yong. He's not even in the PAPCEC, right? The PAP have been boosting him up so much. Oh, he was so great during COVID. Well, yeah, but clearly not as great as Lawrence Wong, because it was Lawrence Wong who won all the plaudits and on the back of that became Prime Minister. And, they say he's such a steady pair of hands. Well, yeah, but not good enough to be in the PAPCEC, not even co-opted. So why is Gan Kim Yong suddenly so, this miracle worker, steady, calm? Why drop him into Punggol and not Tan See Leng or someone else, right? So I have this theory that if you think of the two deputy prime ministers, maybe Lawrence Wong is pushing out his rivals, right? Putting his one rival got pushed out already. Heng Swee Keat is supposed to be prime minister, now retired, right?
Right.
Although technically he's still party chair, but he's not running, and so there goes one rival for prime minister. And now Gan Kim Yong, perhaps someone else who might, within the party, because the PAP seem to be more focused on their own internal politics, right, and then their rivalry with the Workers' Party, than on the people. Right. So maybe Gan Kim Yong is also seen as a possible rival to Lawrence Wong, or maybe he's more loyal to Lee Hsien Loong. So put him in a position where he's at risk. So either you beat the Workers' Party, or you get rid of your rival, win-win. I don't know, that's a thought I had, because otherwise all this moving around, like what?
Yeah. Okay, there's also one thing I also want to say, right? Yeah. Last time, GRCs were perceived as formidable political fortresses, impregnable, because, it takes a lot of resources to penetrate or to take a lot of resources to mount a credible challenge to a GRC, and the opposition parties were all focused on contesting single member wards, right? Yeah. But now, right, with Aljunied and Sengkang, being now captured by the opposition, I think that the concern right now is that GRC is no longer considered to be impregnable, yeah, and and it's like fightable, can be challenged, it can be taken down. And then now the interesting thing is that GRC becomes probably a chink in the armor or a crack that can, one shot bring in not one but 4 or 5 non-PAP of candidate. Yeah. So it is now kind of like what was originally to be this ingenious scheme that you can secure, right, your seats, and like one person can bring one big heavyweight can bring in like 4 newbies or something like that, right? And then
but now logic works the other way as well, right? The Workers' Party has one big star catch, as they say. I hate the term actually. Yeah. But they have Harpreet Singh, so they put him in Punggol, and the PAP panic and moved Gan Kim Yong to Punggol.
It looks like it. It looks like it. Yeah.
But we forgot that there's 3 other candidates in Punggol, and if you were to ask me off the top of my head to name them, I just looked them up, right? But there's Jackson Au, there's Siti Alia, and there's Alexis Dang. And I wouldn't have remembered their names. To me, Punggol is Harpreet Singh versus Gan Kim Yong. And then I just realized there's also Janil and Sun Xue Ling and what's the other lady's name? Lo Yan Ling. And Yo Wan Ling, sorry. And we've just forgotten about them. But to get back to your point, right? So you get one really strong opposition candidate and then you can, if that they can bring with them 3 people that maybe I have no idea how good the other Workers' Party candidates are, to be honest. I know people online have been going a bit nuts about the lady Alexis for being pretty, which come on guys. But apart from that, I actually don't know much about the other 3. But Harpreet is a fantastic guy, very smart, and I think he'd do great in Parliament. And it works both ways, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I think that one thing that we is developed, is that now we see a big party. I mean, not say a big party, but a bigger type of opposition party, where the individuals may not be, memorable, but certainly I would call the branding, right, the message or whatever, so just like even though we might not remember the individual candidates, but we kind of like know the party.
Right.
I think this one is a really difference from the past, where the individual was identified more than the party that he has, So now it's actually the party becomes a person, so to speak, right? And I think that's why, people would now think that, okay, we'll vote for, the cohort, right? The group, the brand, so to speak. Yeah. Anyway, I was still very intrigued, and I haven't, that Nee Soon has got one a very well-known and 4 totally, I do not know who they are, but according to they're new.
Yeah, they're all new. Yes.
So I think that's quite intriguing, because what do you call it? This thing about GRCs being like a way to for people to enter Parliament through the coattails, of a heavyweight, right? That was how people regarded GRCs in the past, right? And so you have a lot of confidence that like this person's the only person that we know, and the other 4 we don't know them. This also needs a lot of confidence.
Well, we should be clear, and especially as a historian, GRCs were really about creating a barrier for the opposition. Number 1, right? We used to have 6-member GRC.
At one time.
Crazy, huge teams.
Huge, yeah.
And then number 2, town councils, they were the same, mapped onto constituencies as a way to punish voters who voted against the PAP, because you could withdraw services from town councils, and Goh Chok Tong was very explicit about that. Teh Cheang Wan was very explicit about that, right? People in Parliament very explicit, you get punished if you vote against the PAP. And it was only after there was an actual genuine outcry that then the government said, it's to ensure racial representation. And then they said one of the members of GRC must be a minority. But of course it's nonsense. If you had 97 SMCs, and then you said 15 must be Malay and 10 must be Indian, you'd still have the same outcome,
yes, exactly.
right? So there's no need for GRCs at all to do a race. It's really about punishing voters and making it easy for the PAP.
And initially it was a 3-man GRC, Initially it was 3, then it became 4, 5, 6. Luckily now, but like I said, right, if let's say now GRCs are winnable, right, then really now the tables have turned, because now you can actually lose, 4, 5 seats at one go.
And you were saying earlier, the fact that the PAP have responded to, they were playing defense for it. Normally the PAP would be like, no, we are aloof, we run this person here, you opposition parties, you put out your best against us. But now they're like panicking, they're like, what, Harpreet is going there? Okay, we quickly move. They're playing defense, which we haven't seen before in the PAP ever.
Yeah, I get the impression that they're on the defensive as well. I do feel that way, yeah. I think recently there was, Lawrence Wong went to help Gan Kim Yong talk or something like that.
Yeah. No, the sheer amount of boosting of Gan Kim Yong, suddenly this man is 8 feet tall. His farts smell like roses, flowers grow wherever he steps on the ground. Like, I was reading all of these speeches about Gan Kim Yong. Like, who is this man? Where did he come from?
Yeah. So, well, yeah, lah. So it does look like the reactionary, that it was a reaction, a response, to a move made by WP. Yeah, it does seem to me. Yeah.
Okay, so well, thoughts on the outcome? What do you think? What do you think's going to happen on Saturday?
Well, I mean, I think kudos to the political parties are playing the long game, in a sense that a lot of them started developing themselves some time ago.
Yeah,
it's not like they suddenly appeared or whatever. So, like some of the members, candidates, volunteers, or whatever, right? They have been helping the party, the opposition party, like a few GEs ago, right? So it's not like they suddenly decided to join this GE. I mean, their stalwarts have been helping. So what I'm saying is that it's just that these things are long. You just have to they build up. It's now we are seeing a kind of development of non-ruling parties who are no longer before, where you have all these what they call it, small tiny opposition parties helmed by one particular person or whatever. No longer already. So there is a different and more importantly is that I'm very heartened to see a lot of these parties having a lot of young people, younger people, to kind of like help them and everything, and that's always a good sign for the longevity and the prospects of the party when you have young people involved.
Has any young candidate particularly impressed you or caught your eye in this campaigning?
Well, I wouldn't want to name any individual young candidate, anybody, but I think that what do you call it? We don't want what do you call it? It's also good that now these the public speaking, public speaking is not really a kind of a characteristic of Singaporeans, okay? But I think now, I'm heartened to see that there are lots of young people who do have, I wouldn't say the gift, but the ability to speak publicly. And I think that's also a very good development, so that when they talk, you find them engaging, and whatever they say, does resonate with you. So I think that's also good.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, I was very surprised by how well Arifin has done. But of course, full disclosure to Singapore, I've known Arifin a long time because civil society. But I didn't think he would be that good on the stump, giving speeches. And the way he handled the gaffe by his own colleague, right, calling him, ethnic slur, right, and how he handled that with a lot of grace was very surprising to me. His speeches have been wittier than I thought I imagined, So for me, that's really, I think he's really impressed me, even though I thought I knew the guy, right? But I think that's someone, and I'm surprised he's still so young. I feel like I've known him for forever. Yeah. So I think that's someone I was.
Well, shout out to Arifin, because he helped me a lot during my campaign in Mountbatten.
Oh, that's
right. Yeah, he helped me a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
And he was very, very much, he's got abilities. He's got abilities, and so he's a very reliable guy, and very reliable. And I have no qualms. I'm very happy to help him. In his efforts, yeah. Yeah.
You've been around so long. You know quite a lot of people.
I do. Yes.
It was Hazel Pua who brought you into the MSP.
Yeah. No. Okay. No. Sorry. It was okay. It was okay. was in the same party as Hazel, right? So we were all in the same group, and I was very happy to be helping. I wanted to help Hazel and Tony campaign. That was my thing. I said, I help you, you know. Then it was Hazel said, no, Jeannette, why don't you join us, you know, and reform a GRC team, you know, for NSP. And I said, and that was the first time I said, huh? You know, like it was Hazel who actually, you know, gave me the idea that why don't I be a candidate, you know, and she was thinking of being a candidate with her at a 5-man GRC, you see. And because she said that to me, I was then forced to think, you know, about the idea of being a candidate, you know, which was never ever sort of like crossed my mind until she said, no, why don't you consider, right? And then, you know, it turned out that she eventually contested in a 4-man GRC, and then I couldn't join because she had 4. But Mountbatten was actually next to that one, so by that time I already decided that 5 of us had decided to go in, and then I said, okay, then in which case I will do Mountbatten, you know. So that was how it all started, and thanks to Hazel to, like, you know, put the question to me, you know. Yeah, so I always remember that.
And how do you think she's done in the last 5 years?
So Hazel, yes, I mean, she is definitely she's a very capable person.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you know, she has really done a good job as an NCMP. I actually wish her all the best, you know, and I think now she's together with Tan Cheng Bok's team at West Coast Jurong West. So I do wish them in all the best. Man Leong and her, they have really, you know, done a good job lah.
Yeah. You're not thinking of like joining her again?
I'm enjoying my happily ever after life right now.
Yeah. Your kids are grown out of the house.
I'm enjoying.
Yeah.
And also I think that I'm interested to see what's going on and everything. Yeah. And I'm happy that I'm still friends with all the all the people, and they're still my friends, and I do wish them well.
Okay, before we go to questions, do we have questions from the audience? Questions and comments? But please feel free to leave questions, comments, anything you'd like. And ask us about anything, right? It's a whole campaign we can chat about. And this is really your last chance to reflect on anything you want to reflect on before cooling off day. But yeah, what I want to ask is, like, being a candidate, what's the hardest part? Is it the speeches, the walkabouts? Is it just that it's such a short time and you're exhausted after?
Yes,
what's the hardest thing?
Yes. Writing speeches is also not easy at all, you know. And the trouble is that you really need to focus to write a speech, you know. And at the same time, you have to be physically out there to, you know, talk to people and to, you know, move around and everything. So it's really very intense, and it's takes a lot out of a person, you know, and you really need a lot of help, you know. And like I said, you know, it's I can see that, you know, the people who are helping behind the scenes, so to speak, they are really critical, and because, you know, you really have got to be so, like, focused, and as you know, speeches are so important, but also you having to be present physically, moving around and doing your visits or whatever. This is so important, you know. So it's like you just hope you can just put it off, you know.
Do you manage to get much sleep during that period? Because in my head, it's like, you know, you probably get up and then you got to go already, walk about, shake hands, have lunch, you know, make media appearances, rallies in the evening. Is that what your daily routine was like?
Yes, it was. But I guess, you know, okay lah, you know, it's once in 5 years, right? And you got to campaign once in 5 years, sadly speaking. But no, actually, no, but you know, in reality, right? It is not the 9 days of campaigning or whatever. Yes, but there's a lot of work that politicians are doing way before. right? And it's just sort of like coming to a head during the 9 days, right? But really, you cannot just, the preparation start, along many steps ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very important. So.
Like what? What are the many steps ago?
Okay, I think gathering your team, because you want to work with people that you need people to help you, right? So you got to have a little relationship with people, right?
Yeah.
And also so that part you can do, building your relationships and your what you want to what do you call it? Yeah, your thoughts on things, and plan
your
what
platform.
Your platform, what ideas and that you want, everything. But yes, I think it's true that it's very difficult when you don't know the ground that you're going to contest.
Yeah.
I think that one is definitely a big. No matter how prepared you are in other things, you have to apply it to a particular ground, right? And you're also not sure whether is it a GRC or SMC or which geographical location it is. And so I think that's really tough. That's really tough, yeah. Because the geography, or rather the actual location, can be, it is an actual problem. Yeah.
You look at what Dr. Chee
Yes,
did
exactly.
in Bukit Batok
Yes,
for 5 years, helping people and really helping not just on a personal level, but also investing in infrastructure, investing in people, basing himself there, all just wiped off the map, just stroke of the pen. And yet, also, why Bukit Panjang unchanged, right? Why is Mountbatten still on the map after all these years?
Yeah.
I just don't understand the logic, especially when there is a really obvious way of drawing the constituents in Singapore, and it's called HDB planning areas, because those areas are already planned as one coherent community and infrastructure. But instead, you draw lines right through HDB planning areas, and every 5 years, the town council has to change, and suddenly, if you live here, your services are not provided from there, it's provided from there. It's just chaos.
Yeah, it is, Even for a resident like me, I just stay put, and then 1 minute I'm in Jujet, 1 minute I'm in Marine Parade, now I'm in GRC. I also don't know who is my
East
MP.
Coast,
East Coast, sorry, East Coast. I don't know who is my MP, Yeah, I get different pamphlets, being pushed to my door.
Do we have questions? Okay, let's take some questions. Okay, I've got my laptop here, and okay, just give us a second. What do you do on cooling off day as a candidate?
I think I think that there's some admin work like oath of secrecy that we need to sign. That's very small admin work. Yeah, I think it's just maybe getting your volunteers to sign oath of secrecy is just admin work. Other than that, I guess organizing your polling agents, and your counting agents. Yeah, but it's just a cooling off. Yeah, it's just to rest a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a question here from Facebook, right? It says, Dr. Chee has been in the political scene for 33 years, since 1992. In your opinion, what do you think of him as a person? And do you think he deserves a seat in Parliament, taking into account his consideration, his persistence and conviction to serve?
Yes, I think Dr. Chee has definitely evolved as a politician from his earlier persona to what he is today. And I think it's also in keeping with the changing political environment, and also what the electorate, also the not demography, but the generational changes, because everything changes, so we also change, right? Yeah. So what would be resonating with electorate 20 years ago, it would not be the same as what the electorate want this time. Yeah. So kudos to him for evolving and changing his what do you call it, how he presents himself and his how he engages with people and all that. Okay, So I would say that one good thing about him, is that it's not all about him. Although people his party SDP, right, is also now people are looking at SDP as let's call it a brand. Okay, so I think that's also good that it's not an individual kind of identification. So he is a very good speaker, and I think he always talks on things that are significant issues that I think does represent what electorate are curious or interested in hearing about. So I think that's definitely about him. I mean, that I know about him. What I would say about him.
I feel like, obviously I haven't known him that long, but he's really evolved from this young firebrand who was focusing on democracy and human rights in his 20s to now very much on issues, I think, which resonate, connect more with the voter. Which of course is not to say democracy and human rights aren't important. Of course, I'm the last one to say it because that's a lot of what my work is on. But he's found ways to approach that through the issues, right? Not to just say democracy and human rights, but to say, look, if you want to address cost of living, you need a government that then responds to you. And if you want a government that responds to you, you got to have democracy and a free and fair electoral system. That sort of pathway. But and he's also done so much, I think, in service to people in Bukit Batok.
Yes.
Right? And opening that restaurant, I think
yes.
people see him washing dishes. It's really changed their impression. I think that having Paul join SDP was a huge thing because SDP used to be thought of as a one-man party, and it's clearly not anymore, right? The fact that someone as smart and with as much integrity as Paul is willing to follow Dr. Chi has really also helped people realize that Dr. Chi is just not this one man,
Yes.
It's not this arrogant leader. And that's, I think, the hardest part of any party building a brand is that succession, right? I think right now only one party has recently pulled off that succession, that's Workers' Party. The PAP totally botched their succession. Their succession is still underway, right? Because Lee Hsien Loong is still there in the cabinet, whereas Low Thia Khiang is not running anymore, right? And then we'll have to see whether PSP, but they have a clear pathway now, because Doc, when he retires, Leong Man Wai and Hazel are there, so there's a clear succession.
That's right,
yeah. So I think that succession planning is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you see, there are certain ideals, democracy is a word that's like people talk about and all that. But I think that what is heartfelt is, how these policies or how this affect the individual, right? The rubber meets road thing, right? And I think what I am, what the politicians have now done is draw attention to the effects of the the wide income inequality, the what they call it, the difference between the rich and the poor kind of thing, right? And I think that Singapore has this very, wide, difference between the very rich and the not so rich, right?
Huge wealth inequality.
Wealth inequality, a huge wealth inequality. Yes, correct. And I think that this is very useful to the electorate for politicians to draw attention to what it means for the ordinary person, that all these things, the GST and all that, right, it affects them, I mean, that I think is what we really, helpful to the people for someone to advocate, how the electorate feels about all these things. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so another question from Sean Francis Han. It seems like the PAP has no messaging strategy this cycle. First, it was Lee Kuan Yew's death. That was 2015, right? SGE 50. Then COVID. But this time, there doesn't seem to be a coherent rallying message. Do you agree? And how might this affect results?
I think that that, you know, I did hear speeches saying that too many oppositions will make it hard for us to work. You know? I mean that kind of.
Let's clear that up right now, right? In a Westminster parliamentary system, a governing party only needs 50% plus one of the seats to have absolute power. If that 50% plus one of the MPs, right? So in this case, 97, so 45, 46, 47, 48, 49 MPs. So that's all they need. If they have 49 MPs, the government has absolute power and can vote through anything they want, except constitutional changes, right? But why do we need so many constitutional changes anyway? We've averaged one constitutional change a year since independence, right? It's become meaningless, our constitution. Just change willy-nilly. But yeah, you only need 50% of the seats plus one to have absolute power. So even if there are 40, 45, 46 opposition MPs, they actually can only ask questions. They can't really stop the PAP if it whips up its MPs to all vote the party line. Right? So what is the government saying? What is this, you know, we need strong... No, they only need... And if they really wanted to protect Gan Kim Yong or whatever, then why not just keep him in Choa Chu Kang, keep Tan See Leng in Marine Parade?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When we're back to the question, messaging, do you feel like there's any messaging, central message from the PAP?
I think that, would people really be curious about the PAP's messages when we have been, you know, receiving PAP messages every day? I think people are probably interested to alternative messages because whatever was said has already been said by mainstream media, you know, reiterating what the PAP has said, you know. And so we all know that some PAP ministers think that a one-party rule is the way to go, you know, and all that. So we all know that, right? So
the PAP are not going to change. They can't change. They have 60 years of weight of, incumbency to defend. And one of the things I pointed out in my work is the PAP's appeal, its message, still revolves around Lee Kuan Yew after all this time. That's why they're so intent on preserving Oxley Road, right? That's why we have a 330 million Founders Memorial. We all know what that is for. It's propaganda. And it's all about preserving this whole Lee Kuan Yew mystique. And the fact that they have to do that, even though Lee Kuan Yew stepped down as Prime Minister in 1990, right, shows that the PAP have nothing but Lee Kuan Yew. So they're campaigning on all of his successes. But that means if they present something new, they're also moving away from the most powerful thing which keeps them electable and in office, which is Lee Kuan Yew. So they're caught, right? They can't like radically depart from his what he said, what he did, from his record, and they can't stick with it because clearly it's not working anymore, right? He's long gone. So that's they're in this paralysis, and so it's just like status quo. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So this is more of a comment, but Greg Long on Facebook says he met you in 2012 when your free legal clinic really helped in his late dad's malpractice cases against a major hospital, and he wants to thank you, and he says he and his family are forever grateful to you.
Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts and your good wishes. Thank you.
Okay, so here's a question, from Facebook about the 5 mayors. What on earth do they do? They're paid 660K annually, and nobody knows, even they can't answer. You know, people have written that and saying, what exactly do you do? What's your take on the mayors?
I don't know what they do either.
Yeah, nobody knows what they do.
I'm not sure what they do. I'm not sure. I cannot explain.
Why do we even need... We have, 5 mayors? New York City has 1 mayor, and it's a bigger city. Tokyo has 1 mayor. And their assemblies are also smaller. Of course, they are cities, not countries. But both New York and Tokyo, they have, 20 million people. But their government is actually smaller and less paid than our government.
Yeah, so that's quite a lot of money that needs to be.
Do you think, right? One of the things Singapore used to have was local government and national government, and of course the PAP abolished it, right? But we had local. So your town councils was that sort of thing, local councillors.
Right.
Then your foreign affairs, your national trade, your defense, right? Your arts, culture, that was national government. Should we go back to having 2 layers of government, you think?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with how these 2 layers of government work, national and local. I mean, Singapore is quite a small country, right? You know, and we probably know someone who knows someone that, everybody kind of knows everybody, you know. So
I guess the question is, should MPs also be running town councils when they're also supposed to be debating national issues? Is it too much to ask for an MP to be doing both things?
Yeah, but that has been, how the rules of the game were set.
Yeah.
And
by the PAP, though, to advantage them.
Yeah, so that has been the dual role of an MP, to be a concern about the municipal issues as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing, really, because I think it also gives the MP an opportunity to get to know the residents. As I was saying, right, that's how the Aljunied, Sengkang, Hougang are so kind of like entrenched. I mean, it's a way for the PP MPs to entrench themselves with the residents, but this can also be the way that the MP can sort of like get to know the residents very, very well, because you are actually dealing with their day-to-day concerns as well. So that also augurs for a long-term relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's also another way to kind of like, be to gain more familiarity with your ward.
One criticism, though, of Meet the People is that it no longer is this sort of direct relationship between MP and the people. It's become a letter writing exercise, especially for PAP wards, where you go there, you plead with you meet the MP staff first, right? You tell them what you want, usually. Obviously, these are PAP MPS. And then, they will help you write a letter to the relevant ministry to appeal for an exemption. And it creates this very petitionary, monarchical style of, plead with your feudal lord for some favors, right? For an exception to the rule to be made for you, for your help. And that makes you beholden personally to politicians, rather than a system which just operates in a fair way.
Yeah, you're saying dependency. You let people feel that, you can do something for me if you write a letter for me, right?
Yeah.
As if there's some kind of like pull string kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what MPs are. Yeah, in PAP was, right? Can you write a letter? Help me pull some strings. Just
he's my friend. The PM is my friend.
Yes, exactly. PM is my friend.
I can ask him for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, talking about the PAP's messaging, I think we were talking about. I was talking about how Dr. Chi has evolved over the years, right? And he's become more. I mean, continue to resonate with his supporters. And I think that the ruling party also needs to evolve. And the question now is that have they evolved with the times, with the current generation? Because I think if they were to stick to their old, the same rhetoric, so to speak, right, then their pool of supporters will be ever shrinking as they, live long and all that. But they need to also impress, and they need the younger people or voters to also buy into their values and style.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think their pool of voters may necessarily shrink per se without the opposition there, and without civil society. So here's an interesting new narrative has noticed, right? People who come to us they tend to peak, in Singapore at least, in two ages. And it's not during school, but after, immediately after they graduate from school or university, from late university to mid-20s. And the other peak is after retirement, right? And why is our audience so strongly in those areas? Because
I see.
What we hear a lot from young people is that during their school days, they get all this PAP propaganda, right? You remember the Palestine issue, and then there was those PowerPoint slides. You know, I think that was it. Who's Education Minister? Ong Ye Kang, right? Was defending. Was it Chan Chun Sing? Sorry, I forget. But once they get out and then they go into the real world, so to speak, into the workforce, and suddenly they realize, hey, Singapore is not this paradise that we were indoctrinated with. And so they start trying to learn more about all these things that they were not taught in school. And that's when they come to New Narrative, and that's when it peaks, right? Their engagement with us, that's the first peak.
I see.
Then, of course, they get into workforce. I think then they you know, they got to start paying their mortgage, right? BTO, car, everything, have families, tired, you know. But then retirement, suddenly you have more time again. Suddenly you're worried about, you know, what's happened, your retirement, your kids, your future, and then interest in New Narrative peaks again. And so without people like, you know, The Online Citizen, New Narrative, JOM, you know, and all these other sources of information, right? Without Workers Make Possible and CAPE and all these people doing such fantastic things, who would you go to after you hit the real world, and then suddenly you realize all these things you were taught in school are not true, or at least they're very limited perspectives on the world, right? And of course, the other parties out there, the other political parties, to also tell you all these things. So, you know, without the work of the other parties and of civil society, the PAP narrative would be unchallenged. So it's not like
true. I know.
You know, a naturally shrinking.
That's okay, because they have excluded other views, so that the only view is that one. Okay.
Anyway, it's been an hour,
okay,
so I think we're out of time.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much, Jeannette, for coming on the show and for having a chat. So really, last question. Do you want to make a prediction? Or at least, okay, let's say, which GRCs or SMCs, which constituencies do you think there is a chance that the PAP will lose, or the incumbent will lose, that might flip?
I think that just judging from the way Tan See Leng was suddenly, you know, move here and there and all that, I think that the challenge from WP is one that the PAP is worried about. So WP is contesting in Tampines, Punggol, and East Coast. So these are, I think, the one that nail biting. I mean, the one
all
that
of them really. You think?
Like I said, you know,
all of them.
I wouldn't want, because you see, I think you mentioned that I can't remember their names or what, you know, but you know, it is also the work of the PAP over the many decades, cumulatively, you know, and the electorate may be willing to give them a chance, you know, and this old ideas of, if you vote for me, your town council will be in ruins or whatever. There's no longer.
That's been disproved, right? Sengkang, Aljunied.
Exactly. So, you know, as a citizenry, as a constituents, I don't think it really matters. I mean, somebody will still, you know, fix this or whatever, right? So whether it's party A or party B, right? But I think that the message the WP is saying is that a vote for them would bring opposition into parliament, and that would be something different for everybody. You know, and that's what they're saying, you know, and I think that is quite an interesting proposition, that you're not just voting who's going to clean my whatever, right? But I'm talking about a national, larger you know, issue here. I think that's an interesting proposition that is being made to the constituents of these wards. That's right.
What about West Coast Jurong East. Sorry, the names.
Yeah, I know. It's such a tongue twister, right? Yes. So, okay, so that one, right? PSP is fielding a very, very strong team. Two NCMPs, Cheng Bok and So, and it is also Tan Cheng Bok's familiar stomping ground. So I don't know, because some things you don't see, you don't really know from media, because we don't know whether things are happening on the ground, word person to person. That one I don't know. So I don't really know. So we are looking at things from the media, right? What we hear, what we see, and all the, and sort of like comments and everything. I'll never know whether it's because the algorithm is giving it to me, and I'm in my echo chamber. I also don't know. This is the thing. So in that sense, it's a bit. But the thing is, I think that Singapore will be changed after this GE, because there's a change. It's like, I don't want to use the word like ground has shifted sort of thing. There's a change, and this will also keep
even if there's no change.
Exactly.
Even if the PAP win all their constituents, you think things will
change? That's right, because it's a political awakening for a generation of people. And that one will always have a cumulative effect.
Right.
Maybe not this GE, then it will be manifested in the next one.
I've been through too many false dawns, I'm bitter, I'm cynical. I'm only 45 and I'm so cynical. But I remember 2011, like, we were convinced things were going to change. I remember 2015, after 2011, we were really convinced. I remember predicting, 2 or 3 GRCs in 2015, and of course the Workers' Party barely held on to Aljunied, Then 2020, right, there was so much excitement. But at the same time, I feel like I refuse to get too excited now.
I see.
I've just been burned too many times, right? And I am hopeful. I'm hopeful of Bukit Panjang, because Paul Tambaya is such a great man. He's smart. He's got integrity, right? He deeply cares. We need people like him in Parliament. And if we cannot get Paul Tambaya into Parliament, then what's the point, right? Every year we say, the whole world keeps saying politicians, right? They're all the same, slimy, sleazy, in it for themselves. We have Paul Tambaya. I don't give anyone else. Like, okay, I care about a lot of people, but if we cannot get Paul Tambaya in the Parliament, then I think, we really, really need to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what is wrong, right? And I think, of course, part of the problem is the system is very unfair.
Yes.
And the elections are widely acknowledged as unfree and unfair. The PAP doesn't even deny it, I've been saying this for years, and I keep thinking they put out some statement, the system is fine, it's free and fair. No, they don't even say that. So, let alone a Hoffman, not even a press statement. But I'm very hopeful for Bukit Panjang. But if Liang Eng Hua wins, I won't be surprised. I'm hopeful for West Coast Jurong East, and wherever the Workers' Party is running, I'm hopeful. I think I'm hopeful for Andre Low in Jalan Kayu, because seriously,
right.
Ng Chee Meng, I'm sure he's a very nice man, but come on, he already lost in Sengkang.
Right.
He screwed up NTUC. He is no representative of workers. He screwed NTU Alliance, right? So I'm very hopeful that voters there will send a message. Let this guy go off into his retirement or whatever, But he's also an example, right? If a PAP cabinet minister loses, what happens? He still ended up in the cabinet anyway as NTUC.
I know.
So they'll be safe. Gan Kim Yong will be fine. He'll be parachuted into a GLC, right? Janil, Sun Sheling, they'll all be fine. They'll get plum jobs, right? They'll be taken care of. So Singaporeans, I urge you, really think about what the country we want to build, what kind of country, what kind of society we want to build. And this is your only chance for democracy once every 5 years. The PAP will not listen to you outside of the election. We all know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'm not so pessimistic, right? I think that even if the outcome appears to be unchanged, even if right, I still feel there's fundamental change being underway. And maybe the changes might not be as as much as we want, but sometimes small, slow, and steady, but real change is actually more important, than a dramatic or a conspicuous change.
I will agree with that, because I think one of the things I've observed is the level of political education among the public has increased a lot in the last decade. And all credit to the work of all the civil society and political party organizations. Shout out to TOC and to Kirsten and to CAPE and to Workers Make Possible and to all these different organizations, SG Climate Rally, and of course New Narrative and JOM, and of course the political parties. Singaporeans understand the system so much better now. They understand how decisions are made, why the system is unfair, how trade-offs happen, right? And I think that's what I've observed. Like, people do seem a lot more sophisticated and educated about politics.
Yes.
But that has also, I think, dampened enthusiasm, because as you become more educated, you realize how rigged the system is in Singapore. So I don't know, it could go either way, right? Maybe people are more educated, but I feel like people also have become harder edged and more cynical and more, skeptical, which is also a good thing, I think, a healthy dose of skepticism.
So you see, this election is quite exciting because we don't really know. It's unpredictable,
it's
right?
Very unpredictable.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
So we can see what's going to. Yeah, I think that's really nail biting.
Okay. So on that note, good luck, Singapore. Remember, think wisely. If I can do one last plug, guys, if you want to learn, ladies and gentlemen, learn more about the issues facing Singapore, it's in this book that New Narrative have published. Right, you can get it at any of your good bookstores, get it at Kinokuniya, get it online, and you can educate yourself, which is the most important thing you can do for the future of our country. And please, read it and learn. Okay, and on that note, I want to thank Jeannette Chong for coming on the show again and having a nice conversation. I want to thank all of you for your comments. Thank you for tuning in. And join us again on polling day, where we will have a watch party to view the results as they come in. And okay, well, good luck, Singapore. Vote wisely, everyone. Thanks, Jeannette.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Every election cycle in Singapore, one concern tends to surface among voters. Is my vote really secret? The elections department says yes, and the process is designed by law to ensure it. From the moment the polls open at 8 a.m., ballot boxes are sealed in full view of candidates and polling agents. After the polls close at 8 p.m., the slips are sealed, and agents may sign on the seals to ensure they have not been tampered with. These boxes are transported securely to counting centers, again observed by the counting agents. After counting, the ballot papers and official documents are sealed and stored in the vault of the Supreme Court for 6 months, before being destroyed. All these steps are open for candidates and their counting agents to observe. It's a rigorous process. But what about the serial numbers? Yes, each ballot has a serial number, and your voter serial is recorded on a counterfoil when you're issued your ballot. This is meant to ensure accountability, to prevent counterfeit ballots or impersonation. But that link between you and your vote is sealed away. It can only be accessed with a court order, and only if there's solid evidence of electoral fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. There is no practical or legal way for anyone to isolate and trace your single vote out of thousands, unless they're already trying to overturn the election. The idea that they know how you voted is a myth, built more on fear than fact. So where does this fear come from? The real issue isn't vote tracing. It's the perception of control, how the system feels stacked in favor of the ruling party. Because here's the truth. Singapore doesn't need to trace individual votes to maintain political dominance. the government already receives voting data by precinct and block. When entire clusters of HDB blocks vote a certain way, it becomes clear where support lies. And that's where gerrymandering comes in. Electoral boundaries are redrawn after each election. Whole constituencies disappear. New ones appear. Strongholds get split up. Weak zones get absorbed. That's not done through your one vote. It's done through pattern recognition. So yes, your vote is secret. But the system is still carefully managed. The real power isn't in tracing your vote. It's in shaping the field where your vote is cast. So don't let fear stop you from voting for the candidates you truly support in the election.